Sit right back and I'll tell you a tale of two reporters who were recently disciplined for doing their jobs. The thing is, one deserved what he got, the other did not. Well, thanks to being belligerent and rude and selfish and crude, CNN's Jim Acosta became something of a household word the other day. The scene was the White House press conference post-midterm elections, and many of the mainstream media scribes were still seething that the much-hoped-for big blue wave never materialized. Without further ado, take it away, Jimbo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
Okay, first things first, why does Acosta assume he's the authoritative news voice when it comes to the migrant caravan? As many of you probably know, I recently returned to Canada after following the caravan for 5 full days. I sure didn't see Jim on the ground down in southern Mexico. But the bottom line is that this caravan is made up of thousands of predominantly young men. They are uninvited guests with the intent of barging into the United States illegally. That makes this trek a textbook definition of the word invasion. But then again, in the weird world of Jim Acosta, an invasion is all about proximity.
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
What the hell? So if a group of people have the intent of immigrating illegally into the U.S., but they are hundreds of miles away, they're not invaders? At what point do they become invaders? When they're a dozen miles away? When they're at the border? When they're crossing the border? What a kook. But as you saw in the footage, the packed press gallery was full of reporters champing at the bit. They also wanted to query the president too. But old Jim, well, he must have thought he was embedded at his CNN studio because he wasn't just quite ready to relinquish that microphone.
Mr. President, if I may ask
Peter,
one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
Mr. President, that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the
Russian
investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
You know, I just love the audacity this man had for the White House staffer who tried to pry the mic from his grubby hands. Excuse me, ma'am. Don't you know who you're interrupting? It's the great Jim Acosta during a taping of the Jim Acosta Show starring Jim Acosta. Oh, I also wonder how this story would have played out if a male conservative commentator physically resisted the efforts of a female White House staffer at an Obama press conference. But alas, seems that the #MeToo movement went on a little siesta during this particular event. In the aftermath, Acosta had his White House press credentials suspended, and justifiably so. If the commander-in-chief tells you to sit down and shut up like 3 times over and you don't, then you reap what you sow. Naturally, the mainstream media are freaking out about this alleged attack on democracy and free speech. They should be more concerned with Acosta's attack on civility. And of course, because this is a litigious realm, CNN is now suing the president and his top aides. Yes, CNN now has a new cause célèbre as they go to bat for their belligerent blowhard. Hey, I guess sweeps week is around the corner, right? See you in court, guys. The Acosta affair aside, days later, another reporter found himself in hot water on this side of the border. Veteran Ottawa Sun sports reporter Ken Warren wrote a story about Ottawa Senators players who took an Uber ride and proceeded to criticize the team's coach. The driver had recorded the conversation and later released it. At the end of the day, it was pretty tame stuff, albeit embarrassing nevertheless. Still, this was legitimate news and Warren was doing his job. But the Ottawa Senators, under the dubious leadership of owner Eugene Melnyk, well, they promptly banned Warren from the team's charter flights. It was so petty and served as a blatant example of shooting the messenger. What next for the Senators next time they get blown out? Will Melnyk threaten retribution to those reporters who have the temerity to publish the score? Hey, here's an idea. Maybe CNN should reassign Jim Acosta to cover the Ottawa Senators hockey team. You know, I think he'd fit in perfectly chronicling the NHL's most dysfunctional franchise. For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, Rebel has a new app. Please download that app and take the Rebel with you wherever you travel.